With inflation being hot and investor sentiment being even hotter, I am starting to worry a little bit about the S&P 500 and the massive outperformance in stocks that we've had since 2023. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I've been bullish since mid-2023, even early 2023 on the stock market, and I've been making bullish videos. And my main argument was that I don't see a catalyst for the stock market to go down. I'm just not seeing a reason for it, and therefore this is why I'm bullish on the S&P 500. And it has played out amazingly well. But I'm starting to see some signs of massive speculation. A lot of the things that I've been waiting on are finally starting to happen. And I decided to make this video to share an update with you on what I think of the S&P 500 and what I'm trying to do in my own portfolio. Now, in terms of the inflation data, I've been surprised. I've been in the no inflation camp, that just inflation is going to come down back to 2-3%, and the Fed's going to cut interest rates and everything's going to be fine. But I have to admit, I'm starting to question this thesis a little bit, because it has surprised for many months right now. In January, and surprised in February, 0.4. I think the expected number was 0.3. So we did get a little bit higher inflation, and especially on the PPI. PPI was 0.6. I think the expected was like 0.4. We came at 0.6. So it's horrible, absolutely horrible. And a lot of people are saying that maybe the Fed is not going to cut interest rates anymore. And I'm not starting to believe it. I still think we're going to have some kind of rate cuts. But still, I'm watching these numbers and I'm just surprised. Inflation is just not coming down. It keeps surprising to the upside. And this is not a good trend at all. And this is what I'm seeing pretty much that could reverse the S&P 500, reverse investors' expectations. Because we had a massive multiple expansion. We priced in very low interest rates because we're going to have rate cuts. Now, if these rate cuts are not coming, maybe we have to take this multiple expansion out of the equation. It's going to only be an earnings growth story, which could lead a lot of these stocks to be priced for disappointment, not just from potentially earnings missing, but mainly from massive expectations. I'm noticing a lot of investors, a lot of greed in the market, but mainly a lot of investors having massive expectations, not just from earnings, but mainly from the return of the S&P. And if you remember in my previous videos, I said that normally at the top, like we had in 2021, we had Tesla. Tesla was the darling. It was the main stock. Everyone heard of Tesla. They heard of how much money their friends made in Tesla. So they decided to enter the stock market looking for the next Tesla. And this is why I was making bearish videos on Tesla in 2021. And of course, I got mocked by a lot of the investors because you just cannot be bearish on the most popular stock. And it's the same thing right now with NVIDIA. Even though NVIDIA, I think, is growing into the fundamentals and it's an amazing company. So I'm not doing anything on NVIDIA. But this is what happened with Tesla. People entered to find the next Tesla. So NIO started going up. Rivian started going up. All these junk trash companies, they all started to move up. And we had massive speculation, massive multiple expansion, massive outperformance in these stocks. What happened the year after? All these stocks crashed 40, 50, 70, 80%. Some of them went out of business. And this is what happens when you have massive speculation. And I said in my previous video that if we're getting close to the top, we're going to have to see new investors trying to find the next NVIDIA. And this is NVIDIA. It's up over 1,800% over the last 5 years. And you have investors starting to look for the next NVIDIA. This is a company called SoundHound.ai, but it's sitting at $8.91 per share. It's a massive multiple expansion in terms of price to sales. And this is mainly after NVIDIA bought a stake, which was a tiny stake. But investors are speculating on SoundHound.ai being the next NVIDIA. And it will likely keep going up, in my opinion. But that does not mean that SoundHound.ai is going to perform the same as NVIDIA did. It could be. But this is what investors are seeking. They want to find the next NVIDIA. Same thing with another stock called BB.ai, BigBear.ai, funny name. But this is what happened. The stock went up massively, then it crashed a little bit. Maybe it will keep going up again. But this is what I'm seeing in terms of the AI stock. NVIDIA is drawing new investors in, and these investors are trying to speculate on the next NVIDIA without looking at fundamentals, just buying any AI kind of investment, trying to find the next NVIDIA. And it's the same thing in the cryptocurrencies. People are buying Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up amazingly well, 50% year to date, amazing performance for Bitcoin. But then you have a lot of speculators not trying to find the next Bitcoin, but trying to make massive amounts of money in some speculative coins, like some coins named after US presidents. It's some funny names, but this is what's happening. These tweets are getting massive traction on Twitter, on YouTube, and this is a sign of massive speculation, massive overvaluation, a lot of froth in the market that we got rid of just a year and a half ago. And here we go later. People are repeating the same mistake that they did not long ago, but investors are just trying to find the next big thing. And I could mainly see it around the feedback around my tweets. And I had the same in 2021. This is how I was able to see the stock market crash. And I talked about it in my videos. And I was just getting a lot of just people telling me, like, what do you mean by these returns? And this is what I'm getting right now. Like, I posted this thing on Twitter and I said what I believe are the most undervalued stocks in the stock market in terms of large cap stocks. And I said something like Google up 15%. You can't imagine how many people told me 15%. 15% is nothing. If I cannot make 3,000%, I don't even want to put my money in anything. It's mainly from crypto investors. But I had a lot of AI investors told me 15% is nothing. Look at how much Nvidia is up. Look at how much SMCI is up. Yes, these are amazing companies, amazing stuff. But I would never bet on me making 3,000%. I always look at a minimum of 15%. Over the last few years, I was able to make more than 25%. But it doesn't mean it's going to keep happening forever. And I'm seeing investors, retail investors, having massive expectation of how much they're going to make in the future based off what happened this year and what happened last year, which we just came out of a market crash in 2022. And it doesn't mean that this performance is going to keep lasting forever, but I'm seeing it in terms of investor sentiment. And investor sentiment is key for me to identify where we are in the cycle. That over the last 5 years, the S&P 500 has returned 7.2% on average from 2018 to 2023, adjusted for inflation. Without inflation, it was 11.3%. Over the last 10 years, adjusted to inflation, 9%. 20 years, adjusted to inflation, is 7%. So the average return adjusted to inflation is around 8%. Now, anything above 8% is amazing. And 15% is an amazing return. But for some people, 15% is not enough. They want to get rich overnight, find the next Bitcoin or the next Nvidia, the next Tesla. And I hope they do find them. And there's nothing wrong with doing something speculative as long as people don't believe that this is actually sound investments. And this is what I'm seeing in the market. And I'm combining this massive bullish sentiment, these expectation of high return, expectation of trying to find the next big thing. I'm starting to see it in the market like I've seen it in 2021, and I'm combining this with the fear and greed index being at very high levels, and I'm comparing this to what I see of a potential catalyst of a market downturn, which is higher inflation than expected, that could lead to a delay within rate hikes. And if we look at a basic chart of the S&P, we did break the trend on Friday. You could see this close. We closed below the trend line. Maybe this is a fake out when we go back up, or maybe this is a massive change that could take us back to 48, 4,700. I'm not really sure, but I try to pay attention to this stuff, so I have a plan. And my plan is to basically buy amazing companies that I love at the right price. This is something I posted on Twitter about price alerts, which most people don't use them. I just spend the weekend looking into new stocks. I find my fair value or a stock at a price I'm willing to buy, and I put an alert on it. And there's so many times where I made so much money in the market by being alerted about the stocks that I even forgot about. But it just reached my price. It sold off 15% on earnings for no reason. I look quickly in the company. I buy it 15% in the morning. In the afternoon, it's maybe down like 2%. It recovered. All because of price alerts. It's free on Yahoo Finance or most brokers. And this is pretty much my plan. And I'm just going to sell more of shorter term investments. And maybe I could sell them in dollar cost average into my stocks or buy new stocks. And this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing massive speculation, investor sentiment at pretty close to all-time high. It does not mean we can't go higher, but we're starting to approach a point where things are just not making sense anymore. And this is what I'm seeing. So I just shared my honest opinion with you guys on the stock market. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It was not financial advice. So if you did enjoy it, please press the like button and maybe consider subscribing. So I hope to see you in another video.